Hello, testing 1 2 3, testing 1 2 3. This is Mark Knowles. It's June 1st, 2018, and I just wanted to see what kind of quality I got out of this. I see I should probably shave, but hey, what are you going to do?
Hi, everybody. This is Mark Knowles, and I'm the instructor for LGTC 5010. I want to welcome you all. I know you've probably gotten the email about orientation, of how to do this course, and I just want to sort of give you a little bit more information concerning kind of myself and also a little bit about the first week. First of all, as in terms of the general ways of navigating the course. If you are having any problems whatsoever, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me. That's Mark, M-A-R-K, Knowles, Knowles, at colorado.edu. You can also call me. My phone number is 303-908-0581. You can write an email if you want to set up an appointment to do a Skype call. You can call me and we can maybe then set up a Skype call if you like to have the visuals. But that's really important. Don't hold anything in when you're confused or not sure of yourself or what's going on. That's probably going to help me as well so that I can get better information out to the rest of the class, because you're probably not the only one who's experiencing some confusion. The second thing that I'd like to add to some of the orientation materials is this whole idea of how we need to behave. And this is something that Eric Herman, my co-conspirator in crime, wrote about in the introduction. He mentioned the fact that we need to be as collegial as possible. We need to sort of step back and be real menches. And one of the ways that we need to do that is to actually be as scientific as we possibly can. I'm going to send you a greater written informational piece on this. So, if you don't quite get what I'm saying here, you might read that and get a little bit more of the information about what I'm trying to say. But science, one of the great things about science is that it provides certain rigorous universal measures for how we validate whether something is true or false. So we're going to be having a lot of statements coming out of people's typewriters. No, I guess we're not going to have any statements coming out of anyone's typewriters. That's false. We'll probably have a lot of statements coming out of people's computers. And what we'll need to all admit is that some of these things are falsifiable, some of them are not. And those that are falsifiable sort of fall into the realm of science. Those that aren't don't really fall into the realm of science. That doesn't mean that they're any less true or false. It's just that it's difficult to make claims on those. And in second language acquisition, we go over a lot of the same terrain. We actually find important thinkers in the domain who aren't so good necessarily at coming up with falsifiable statements, and they get into a little bit of hot water when they do that. And again, that doesn't mean that they're true or false. It just means they haven't done the work yet to measure what they're saying and test what they're saying. So that's some of the housekeeping stuff about this class. And as I said, I'm going to put up a little bit, I'll put up a written document that you can read if you are bored. And I talk a little bit in there actually about a New York Times Magazine article that is really fascinating. So if you're not overwhelmed by all the reading in this course and you want to have some really interesting reading outside of second language acquisition, there's an article that I mentioned in my overview that you'll want to look at because it's fascinating and it's all about science. It's about crime and science. What two better things can you come up with other than peanut butter and chocolate or love and war? I don't know. Okay, first week. Last year, we read an article, or a chapter, I should say, from a 1986 book called, what's the chapter is on approaches and methods in language learning. I don't remember the exact title. I should. Sorry about that. But it's a really crucial chapter for anyone who wants to see a big overview of our profession and how all the things that happen within our classrooms, in our textbook industries, in our institutions, how all these things sort of fit together. And basically, the main concepts are that there are things called approaches and there are things called methods. And a lot of times people get these two things confused. But approaches are basically sort of the philosophical undergirdings of second language acquisition theories. And methods are more or less the manifestations of those theories. So one drives the other, usually. And then from that are spun out a lot of other phenomena that you'll be very aware of. Those are the sort of phenomena that happen on a minute-by-minute process in your classroom. If you answer a student one way and you're not sure why you answer that question one way, well, you might be able to actually relate it somehow to your underlying understanding of what second language acquisition is, and that goes back to theory and approach. So all the things that we do in a long chain of events will all relate back to approach and theory. And that approach and theory is going to be pretty much a big part of this class. That said, I believe that what you're going to be able to get out of this class is not just approach and theory, but I think you're going to be able to get clearer ideas of how you can put together lesson plans, how you can put together materials, and perhaps most importantly, I think that this class is going to give you a lot more self-assurance that you are the central factor in whether your students learn a language and enjoy learning a language or not. And of course, that central factor, we want it to be turned in the direction of them enjoying it. The second thing that we're going to be doing in the first week is the Bill Van Patten article, or I should say first chapter, from this book. Wait, there. That's the book. While we're on the topic, which just came out last year. It's less than a year old. Eric Herman, by the way, if you read the acknowledgments, I think it's in the acknowledgments, is mentioned there. So Eric was one of the original readers of the manuscript. And hey, Eric, there, another shout out. So that first chapter is a communicative language teaching principle, and the chapter's title is Teaching Communicatively Implies a Definition of Communication. So I'm not going to actually get into any of the details of that chapter at all right here, because I think you're going to enjoy the chapter. I think it's very accessible, and I don't want to even do any advanced organizers or whatever, except to say that there is one idea that is kind of connected to that chapter and also sort of connected to the overall thrust of of the book while we're on the topic. I believe Van Patten in the book, if I'm recalling this correctly, mentions that immersion is one of the better ways of doing communicative language teaching, and that has to do with the various functions of language communication. I'm sorry, the various functions of communication. There are basically three that he mentions: psychosocial, cognitive informational, and entertainment. And that immersion responds to the bigger one there, which is the cognitive informational. And it's a bigger one because of the context that we learn languages in, which is usually a formal classroom setting in a school and an institution. So taking that concept that immersion is really good for learning second language acquisition, some people have suggested that, well, okay, so why don't we do immersion about the grammar of the language that will pass on information about the language, and that's going to be the centerpiece of the content of our input. Well, I really kind of like that thought experiment. Is that really a good way of doing immersion? I understand the whole possibility that we might be killing two birds with one stone there. But I think what we'll also come up with in this course is a questioning of the use of actually teaching grammar. That's going to be one of the themes here, and that theme we'll explore through scientific research. But another theme that we might not get into so much is an educational theme. Who should be at the heart of determining what goes into the curriculum? Should it be our needs, our institutional needs, or should we start turning the determination of the curriculum more towards the students and what they need? This, I think, actually joins up with some of the major philosophical issues of the last 50 years. I think we can find in Jürgen Habermas, a great German thinker, some of these questions. We can also look to Martin Buber and Paulo Freire and find out that there's got to be some kind of dialogical back and forth that helps us determine what we actually do in our classroom. And finally, I think a lot of people will say that world language education is meant to sort of bring the world together. And maybe the most idealistic aspect of that is it helps solve problems between peoples. It might actually lead to some kind of world peace, possibly, at some point. So all of these things I think we need to really be very conscious of. And so when it comes down to curriculum determination, let's think big. Let's think idealistically. Let's make our profession the supreme queen of our entire educational curriculum. On that thought, have a great first week, and I look forward to you on the forum.